Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing this evening? It is currently 4:26 a.m. on this really pretty, really beautiful, really pretty, really beautiful Monday evening going into Tuesday. And I fell asleep at about 11 o'clock last night. And I woke up at like 3 o'clock with Boo Radley snuggled so close to me that I didn't want to wake the little guy up. And I'm like, look at my whole camera setup is all different. There's like, all this stuff is gone now. I don't know why. I must have hit different buttons or something. But anyway, he was sleeping so close to me that I didn't want to move to wake him up. But I woke up and I was like wide awake. So I was like, well, I'm gonna go vlog. So I got up and got my stuff together very quickly. And I had 2 batteries charging and a battery in my camera from having filmed my last video, which was my Peter Does Stuff video. And I'm thinking I changed the battery, but I'm not sure. And I thought I grabbed a second battery, but I just checked and I didn't. So I only have the battery that's in the camera right now. So as long as it goes, is as long as we'll go. And, which is fine anyway, because, I mean, it's late, so I don't want to be vlogging forever. I have my coffee from earlier today. And then I also brought some water. I had such a nice day today. We didn't really do a whole lot. Alex was off work. And he really didn't do anything all day long except for just relax, which was nice for him, just to have a whole day, you know, just to not for us to go to brunch, not for us to have any place to go, but just to completely relax all day long was really nice for him. So, he kind of slept off and on all day long, and then he was like rearranging the plants in the back patio and stuff. He made them look really nice, and then he put the pillows out there. Put the cushions and the pillows out there, and the back patio, the back deck looks really, really nice. I'm really happy about it. And then I made videos. Like, I got up and I went to go get coffee, and I did a review, and then I came back and I made videos. Well, he just kind of relaxed. And it's so funny because he tells people now, he was like, I'm so used to Peter like filming videos while I'm upstairs, like in bed, like cause he'll, you know, lay down and like watch a show or something while I'm filming. And he's like, just the sound of Peter's voice downstairs, he's like, puts me to sleep, which is so funny because it's usually like, you know, the videos that I would film right there, like my drama video and like my Peterisms video. He's like, it's so relaxing for me just to sit there and listen to him, which is so funny. But so I filmed a couple videos. We were actually gonna do a Q&A today, but I just ended up not feeling like doing it. I felt like it was just nice for him to relax, and he was more than willing to do it. I saved the questions, so we'll probably do it sometime this month. We're gonna go out of town for a couple days for his birthday, and so I was like, well, maybe I can just save them for then when we go out of town. And yeah, so I saved about 30 questions. I tried to save the questions that we haven't answered before, because people tend to always, you know, like they haven't watched the past Q&As that we've done, of which we've done actually quite a few. So they always tend to ask the same questions, which are like, you know, have you guys thought about adopting kids? And, you know, if you could travel anywhere in the world, where would you go? And that kind of stuff. I love Q&As. I love to watch Q&As. They're probably one of my favorite videos to watch of people. So anyway, then it was like getting like late afternoon, early evening, and I told Alex that we were talking, like he was upstairs and I was downstairs and I was just kind of working on stuff. And I said, I have been craving specifically Papa John's pizza for like the last week. I don't know what it was. I was like really craving I love the dipping sauces at Papa John's, the dipping sauces. I do though. And I love the garlic sauce. It's my favorite. And I have been craving pizza for like the last week. So I told Alex that, and he was like, well, let's get pizza. And I was like, okay. So he put an order in while I was finishing up my last video, and then I went to go pick it up, and he got a pizza, he got a pepperoni, a large pepperoni, and I got a large cheese and pineapple and onion is what I get. I know some people are like, ew, gross. I used to always get, before I was a vegetarian, I used to always get sausage and pineapple. But now I get pineapple and onion, and I love it. And then he ordered something else. It's like garlic sticks, garlic butter sticks or something like that. Anyway, and then we watched the last episode of Pose, which was from yesterday. And I knew that this was a short season, or I think it's a short season, but I didn't realize that it ended next week. Like, you guys, I'm gonna be Devastation Central when that show ends. And every episode this season has been an absolute tearjerker. It is such an important show to watch. Like, it is such an important show to watch. And it completely captures that era that I came out into. Of just, most specifically, AIDS, and the AIDS epidemic is really a lot of what the show's about. This season, the show is so much about addiction, and they do it in such a respectful way, and they do it in such an honest way. Like, there have to be writers on the show that are in recovery because they really know what they're talking about. And, but it's just kind of, the show this season is a lot about saying goodbye, and, it is really a phenomenal show. And there was a wedding in the last episode, which was probably one of the best wedding scenes I have ever seen in a television show, period. One of the best wedding scenes ever. And but before that, there was a lot about, like, the marriage license and stuff, you know. And I was watching it, and it brought up a lot of memories for me about wanting to get married and not being able to legally, you know? We're not that far out from that. We're not even 10 years out from that. I think it was 2014 that Alex and I legally got married, that June. So what is that, 7 years that it's been that we've been able to legally get married in this country. And that was something that I felt pretty strongly about, as far as, like, you know, Alex and I did a lot of work on that issue. That was something that we both felt really strongly about. And I can remember, you know, like, when I first came out 30 years ago, like, to say, like, I don't remember feeling as strongly about it then, because I just, you know, it was just an assumed thing. Gay men, lesbians couldn't get married, you know? So it wasn't like you really realized that it was this, or it felt like this human rights issue. And then, but when you meet somebody, you know, and you want to share your life with them, everything, you know, implicitly, legally, you want them to have every right that you have, as far as, I mean, we're not that far out, you guys. From, I think people forget this sometimes when we have all these shows on TV and the movies and everything like that. We're not that far out from family members literally coming into a hospital room and saying, you need to leave, and you need to move out of the house tomorrow, and, or this second, or, you know, we're not that far out from people coming out, and this still happens today as well, people coming out and being kicked out of their homes immediately for being part of the LGBTQIA plus community. We're not that far out from families not respecting partners. This just actually happened. There was, like, that viral video on YouTube. Do you guys remember that? About, because the guy that passed away was from Indiana, because he knew a couple of my friends. He had gone to Culver Military School with a couple of my friends, and then he had moved to California, and he and his boyfriend were together, and then he died. It was real tragic how he died. I feel like it was like he fell off a building or something. And then his boyfriend did this video that was just absolutely beautiful, but they said he wasn't allowed to come to the funeral. They wouldn't give him any information, on and on and on. I mean, I just can't even imagine, like, 1 second. I can't even imagine, first of all, going through the grief and the pain of losing my husband. I mean, I can't even imagine, okay? And so for all of you out there, I send my prayers and my blessings and positivity. But then on top of that, to just be left out of everything, to just be like, you are not part of this, you didn't matter, you don't matter, you know, nothing. I'm not talking about just going to a funeral. I'm talking about literally just cut off from everything. We come in, we take all of their stuff. You don't get any memories. You don't get any of that stuff. Ooh, Richie Woods is open right now. The gate is open in there. You know, you don't get any of that stuff. You don't get any of the memories. Sometimes they take the pets, your pet. Sometimes they kick you out of your home. You know, there was that scene, I can't remember who, I feel like it was Vanessa Redgrave and somebody else, in If These Walls Could Talk, 1 or 2, but you guys remember that show that they had on HBO? That was like a fear that was very real, that we lived in for a long time. That, like, you know, if we were dating somebody and we went to the hospital, or if they had to go to the hospital, that our family or their family wouldn't let them in. And you think, you know, that you know their family, and maybe, I mean, I've heard of so many situations where it's like, well, they let me be part of the family and I was over there for holidays and whatever. But then the partner goes into the hospital and it's like, they actually showed this in the show Pose. And then it's like, we don't need you anymore. Like, thank you, but we can handle this here on out. This is a family issue. Oh, no. It wasn't Pose. It's a Sin. And when one of the guys is dying, and the mom won't, it's like the main guy, and the mom won't let his best friend see him. It's really hard stuff. So, getting married legally on so many levels. I can remember going in and getting a gym membership with Alex. I actually wrote this in the article that was on the Huffington Post for the Dear Annie letter that I wrote. So if you don't know the story, way back when, I was reached out to by somebody that I know, and she asked me to write a letter on ways that my life is affected by a ban on marriage equality in Indiana. And so I wrote this letter, and it was like all the simple things you would never think about. It was all of like the small issues of bigotry that I think people don't, like before that, I don't know that people really even acknowledged that in everyday ways, heterosexual couples are validated, and that LGBTQIA plus couples are invalidated, and how it makes you feel less of a human being. So, you know, anything like sharing apartment leases to titles on houses. One of the big things I remember was gym memberships back in the day. Like, Alex and I couldn't get a family gym membership together. We would have to get, like, each of us pay for a single gym membership, which was literally the same price almost as a family membership if we had gotten it together. And I remember finally we went, I can't remember where it was, and this guy was like, he was like one of those, like, I'm cool kind of guys, so, like, I'll give it to you together as a family. We'll just put you on here together as a family. And I can remember in that moment, I'm sitting there, and this guy is like 22, and I'm like 40. And I'm like, he's doing one of these, like, I'm a cool kind of guy, so I'm gonna let you guys slide and put you on the family thing. And I thought, I have busted my ass way too long. Like, it really used to piss me off. And I'm not saying this in a belittling way, but it used to really piss me off that two 18-year-olds that hadn't experienced anything in the world could go up to the city county building and they could get married and make it last 2 weeks and then get divorced because they didn't care. And I was living and contributing to the world in a positive way and had been for 40 years, and I didn't have the same rights. Like, explain that to me, please, somebody. I used to get so frustrated about it, you know? So then marriage equality was passed, and so USA Today had also posted my article that I wrote, and so they reached out to us when marriage equality was passed, and they asked, our pictures were on the front of the Indianapolis Star, the Indianapolis Monthly, USA Today, and with other couples as well. I mean, we weren't the only ones, but with other couples as well. They covered, like USA Today covered a couple different stories, but that was really, really cool. And that was such an amazing day. Like, it was funny because we had gotten married in 2011, and you know, we had received, I would say, not tons, but quite a bit of backlash about getting married before marriage equality had passed. And it was a decision that Alex and I made because at that time, in 2011, we didn't see it getting legalized anytime soon. And I was like, you know what? I am not gonna wait my entire life for somebody else to tell me what is and what isn't. And so the reason that we decided to get married in 2011 was because we wanted to get married in front of our friends and family. We specifically picked the 30 people that were there. And we explained this in our wedding vows, that each of them were testament to our marriage. And that if we were ever having problems, we would go to some of the people that were there and be accountable and things like that. And when Alex and I were going through problems, we went to our friend who married us, and we talked to my cousin who stood up on my side, and we talked to Sarah who stood up on Alex's side. And those people were accountable for, I mean, they weren't accountable, but we were accountable to them for our marriage. That was important to us. You know, that was important for us to do that in front of our friends and family. Plus, I almost didn't do it because I felt so strongly about the legal aspect of it. And then I had a very close friend of mine who's a heterosexual man, and he's been married for about 30 years. And I was just talking to him about it one day, and he said, let me tell you something. He said, anybody can go down and get a marriage certificate. He said, anybody can have a wedding. He goes, whether it's legal or not, right? He said, but not everybody can have a marriage. He said, a marriage is what you work on, you know, in between hours. It's what you work on when you're having arguments and you talk to one another and on and on and on. And he said, you go get married. He said, because you and Alex deserve to have a marriage. This isn't just about a wedding. The wedding is a celebration of what your life together. And it really kind of made things a lot different for me. But I remember that day. So when marriage equality was passed in Indiana, which I believe was like June 26th, because we were getting ready to go out to dinner for my birthday and Alex's birthday with my aunt and uncle, my Aunt Kathy and Uncle Dave. I remember we went to, what are the two restaurants that are next together? Kona Jack's and Daddy Jack's. Kona Jack's is like the seafood place, but we were going to Daddy Jack's, which is like the steakhouse. And that afternoon, Alex called me and he was like, hey, I'm coming home. And I was like, what is going on? And he was like, they just passed marriage equality. We need to go downtown now. Maybe it was late morning, I don't know. And I was like, okay. He was like, so get dressed and let's go downtown, and we're gonna get our marriage certificate, because we thought what was gonna happen, which it did kind of, but just for a short period of time, we thought they would repeal it. And then like Proposition 8, anybody that got married in that period of time, it would be basically you were grandfathered in, so your marriage would still be legal. So Alex is like, we're going down there today. Like, we're gonna do this today. And so we did. And it was really funny because we wore like shorts and polo shirts and like flip-flops or something. And I remember, I have a picture of it. I think one time I inserted it in here. It was really cute because, well, at the end of all of it, they said, do you want to pay the extra $10 and have a marriage ceremony? And we're like, yeah, sure. So they officiated our wedding and we're like standing underneath this thing. But it was so cool because when we went down there, we saw so many friends of ours that, I mean, friends of ours that had been together like 30 years longer than we had, you know, that had been waiting for this moment their entire life, you know, and it just was such a cool thing. And we saw so many people dressed up, so many people in wedding dresses and tuxes, and it was just like such a moment. And we got there, like they stayed open late, and so we got there at like 5 or something like that, and they were staying open till like 7 that night. And there had been a line all the way down the hall supposedly, but we got there and we just like walked right in. And the women that were working at the counter, so if you don't know the story, there was this big huge issue, and I believe it was either Southern Indiana or Kentucky. It was right here. I can't remember. I don't know why I can't remember the story now. But the woman that refused, this is like what caused like the whole big deal about it. The woman that was the city county clerk, that she refused a marriage certificate to a couple. She refused to do it based on her religious freedom. I think it was Indiana. It had to have been Indiana because at the time, Governor Pence, who then became Vice President Pence, Governor Pence, I don't think a lot of people know this. So at the time that Governor Pence was chosen as the Vice President, he was not loved in Indiana. And everywhere that you would go in Indiana, you would see signs, like literally just everywhere in Indiana or Indianapolis, I don't know about the rest of Indiana, that said Pence must go. Where you would see signs that were like signs for like voting for people, they were the same signs, but they said Pence must go. Pence had passed the Religious Freedom Act in Indiana, and essentially the Religious Freedom Act said that any business could stand behind their religious belief system. And it wasn't necessarily, the way that it was written was not necessarily negative. Okay, I believe in people's religious freedom. It was what it empowered them to do. So if you came into somebody's establishment and they didn't want to serve you, literally it could be McDonald's, and you could walk into McDonald's and they said, I don't want to serve you because you're gay. And they could say that. Or they could say, I don't want to serve you because of whatever their other religious beliefs were. It was this huge thing in Indiana at the time. And so it was a very, very scary time, especially to be gay in Indiana, because people were using it. You would hear of people that wanted like wedding cakes for their wedding ceremony and they were gay, and bakeries would deny them service, or venues would deny them service. There were funeral homes that were denying people service. It was a really, really scary time in Indiana. And being somebody that was gay, because there were a lot of businesses that hid behind this, right? Then there was like this exposure of what those businesses were, and there was pieces of it that got to be really not pretty. Now, Alex and I got involved in working on doing like some activism for that as well, but not in a negative way, in a positive way. IUPUI, they're Gay Straight Alliance. So IUPUI is, come on, camera, Indianapolis University, Purdue University, Indianapolis. And Alex and I had both gone to school there. So their Gay Straight Alliance, they were having like an end of the year party, and they had ordered rainbow cupcakes from a bakery. And the bakery at the last moment, like literally, like this is how people would do things, right? It was really ugly. Like they would agree to it, but then in the last half an hour, they would say, oh, no, we're not going to have your wedding cake for you. And it's the day of the wedding. And you're like, Well, now I have no wedding cake, okay? Well, based on my religious freedom, I don't have to serve you. It was stuff like that. So there could be no, like, legal action afterwards, right? So Alex and I got very involved in this rainbow cupcake situation because these kids had no cupcakes. So we worked with a local radio station, Radio Now at the time. I don't think they're Radio Now anymore. And we had a party for them, like in this parking lot one morning at the radio station, and the radio DJs and stuff that we were close with that were not gay. And we worked with like something like 10 area bakeries and gave away free Pride cupcakes to anybody that wanted to come. And it was huge. It was massive. Like, all these people came. And so we just tried to bring, you know, like, positivity to people that were supportive of that. But it was a really scary time at that time because you didn't know, like, if you were going to walk in somewhere, if somebody was going to say, I'm not going to serve you because you're gay, or you need to leave my establishment. And it could get ugly. I mean, I had heard stories where it got ugly. So anyway, the city county clerk, not city county clerk, this county clerk, she denied some couple a marriage certificate based on religious freedom. And I feel like that's what started the whole, like, appeal process thing. And then somebody appealed it, of the marriage equality. Anyway, there were like 3 days in June that our marriage was like legal. And then it got appealed. And then later in the year, I don't remember when it was official, but we were official as of June 26th because they couldn't take it away from us, you know. But I remember we went in there and it was so cool. And the women that worked at the counter, they were so happy and excited to be part of that. Like, they were like, when we walked up there, we were like talking to them, and everybody else was so dressed up that I think that they were like a little bit more like calm talking to us because we were like dressed so casual, and we were explaining kind of like our history, and we had had our wedding and stuff before, and they were like so excited to be a part of history. And they have these maps on the wall. They had an Indiana map, and then they had a US map, and then they had a world map. And if you were like the first one from a city in Indiana, you got to put this thumbtack in there, thumbtack in there. And then if you were the first one from a certain state, I think by the time we got there, like every state had been filled. But then if you were the first one from a certain country, and Alex was the first one in Indiana from Venezuela to get married, as a same-sex couple, and so he got to put the thumbtack in Venezuela, which was really cool. And then we went and had our marriage certificate, and then we went out to dinner with my aunt and uncle, and they were so happy for us, and it was just such a moment. And that was just a really cool day. That was probably one of my happiest days, honestly. It really felt like in a weird way, it really felt like I mattered, and that was acknowledged. Not just by people that were like, okay, we're cool with you, or I like gay people, or I have a gay friend, or I have a gay uncle. But that, for the first time, I wasn't a second-class citizen. Which I had felt like since I could remember liking guys, you know? That I always felt invalidated. It was a really happy moment. And I think that's why, like, when I see this issue, you know, like all these issues about, like, I don't know why this one, I think this one, like this one really, really bothers me, is the fight about the trans bathrooms in the high school. Like, one of the reasons why that really bothers me is because bathrooms and locker rooms were not safe places for me when I was in high school. They were not even high school, junior high. They were, I can't see where I'm at on time, but I feel like I'm at, like, it's about to stop here in about 20 seconds or 30 seconds, I can't tell. But the bathrooms and hallways weren't even safe for me. The kids slammed me into hallways. Teachers would walk right by. They wouldn't say anything. They would not say anything. Teachers would watch me slammed into lockers and would just walk by because they didn't want to get involved, you know, or they didn't know what to say. It stopped. So I can remember like not going to the bathroom for an entire day. Or if I had to go to the bathroom, waiting until I was in a class and asking for a bathroom pass. You know, I don't know how many of your women out there know this, but like men's bathrooms in high school don't have doors on the stalls. Okay, so just imagine having to go to the bathroom, which I don't think I ever did once the entire time I was in high school. You know, I don't really remember what I did. I can remember like not going to bathroom for the not even walking into the bathroom ever, like days on end, unless I was like in a class, and then I would ask for like you know, I think there was like, I took photography like my last 2 years, and there was like a bathroom, I can see it, there was like a bathroom by the photography lab, and it was like a 2-hour class or something long, and I would ask to go use the bathroom during that class, and it was like, I think I had that like halfway through the day, and so like I could go to the bathroom and then I was fine. But bathrooms were scary places to me. I mean, the times that I had to go into bathrooms, like, I didn't like it, and so I didn't go. I cannot even in a million years imagine being trans and going into a bathroom in a high school. And I mean, you want to put a teacher in there that's going to monitor exactly what happens and be cool with that, you know, an open-minded teacher, but in every school bathroom, but that's not going to happen. So why not have designated bathrooms for one person that have a lock on the door that somebody can use? I just don't understand what the big deal is about it, right? For somebody's safety. I mean, when you think about this, and we talk about like human rights and things like that, and people go, oh, this is stupid. This is stupid. We're talking about bathrooms in high school. Is it? Imagine, okay, having to go to the restroom. Whatever that means, okay? Whatever we want to say, 1 or 2 from back in the day of elementary school. Whatever that means. Imagine having to use the restroom, okay? A very private and intimate thing anyway. And then on top of that, you have to go use a restroom that is not how you identify physically, okay? Like maybe how people see you or whatever, right? And I mean, that would be so uncomfortable. I just can't even, not even uncomfortable, but scary as hell. I can't even imagine. I just can't even imagine. I would refuse to do it. Well, I did. I mean, but I wasn't, you know, I didn't identify as trans, but I just didn't. I was terrified. And I've told the story on here about the gym teacher that I had. That was fantastic, you know. But I did have incidences in the locker room when I was in junior high. And it was really uncomfortable, you know. It's like, I was just thinking about this the other day because I started, or last night, because I started Julie Murphy's new book called Pumpkin, and it's about this gay kid in the same town that Dumplin' took place in the Million Millichek book. I can never remember what that one's called, her second book, but anyway. And he's like a heavier kid, and at the beginning of the book, he's talking about how like he goes to the nurse's office and she like protects him against having to go to gym, because when he's in gym, like he either has to wear a shirt like for like basketball games that are too tight, or he has to be a skin, which is like humiliating. And I can remember that, like playing, and they'd be like shirt, skins, and like point to me, and I literally just like dread shrilled through me. I just couldn't even imagine it. I just could not. I'd be like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, and you know, and had to do it. And then walking in the locker room and literally, and like thinking about this the whole time, you know, keep your head up, keep your head up, keep your head up. Don't look down anywhere. Don't look down anywhere. Just go straight to your locker and change. Go straight to your locker and change. There was only 1 year in junior high that I had to like dress out for gym, and I feel like it was my 9th grade year. But I literally can remember that, like saying like, just like go to your locker and just like don't look anywhere. And I remember this ass. I don't remember who he was. I don't remember his name or anything, but I just remember he was an ass. Gym teacher that I had that was also like the coach in junior high. He put my locker, I asked him to move it. I said, can you move me to a corner where I am like not around other people? And he goes, no. And he had me like right in the middle. And I remember I was like right in the middle of these two things. Like, you know, where they always, you know, in a movie, they paint you in the worst scenario possible. If you're like in a, what do you call it? Like if you're in a locker room and it's the most uncomfortable place ever, they put you like right in the main area, you know, like that's where my locker was. And it was like you walked in the door and then it was like right, I mean, it was right where everybody could walk in. And I remember, and then the showers were like right to the right and stuff like that. And I remember like kids would constantly be like, what are you looking at? I mean, I literally would be like looking in my locker, like looking, I would like this in my locker, and people would be like, what are you looking at, dude? What are you looking at, F? I'm not gonna say the word, but what are you looking at? What are you looking at? You know? And it was horrible. It was terrifying. And it was demeaning. Think about all the dean that told me just to get over it and man up, and the teachers that acted like they couldn't do anything about it, you know, and all of these people that just were like, it's just not that big of a deal and whatever. And I think about that moment, just that one small moment, you know, standing in a locker and just being like an inch away from the locker, like pulling up my clothes as slow as I could, and this guy standing behind me, like literally breath on my neck. What are you looking at? And it just, what are you looking at? What are you looking at? I mean, just like, and no teacher coming to protect me, and me not feeling safe, and not saying anything, because anything that I said was going to be wrong. And I think about that moment, and I think like, they all should have had to have lived through it. You know, like I think, you know, maybe everybody needs to have that experience to see what some of us go through, you know, which is whatever. I don't know that I necessarily believe that, but it's like, I don't think people really understand what it's like. Like, I don't think people really get it, that are like, God, 30 years later, you're still talking about bullying. That is why it was so important to me when I was in counseling, that my counselor looked at me, my marriage counselor looked at me and he goes, I really think that you suffered PTSD as a result of being bullied. You know, I really think you did. And, like, the hardest thing was I never knew when it was going to come next. I never knew where or when it was going to come from. Oh, so it's like that, oh, like that, you know? And, so hell yeah, it felt good for me to be validated when I got married, you know? We've had a few moments like that as the LGBT community through the years. That's why Pride is important. You know, that's where people are like, well, why do we have to celebrate Pride? Because of that, okay? And give it to us. Let us have 1 month. Is it really that big of a deal? You know? Didn't we hide in your shadows for you long enough? Didn't we make your lives more comfortable for you by not sharing our stories of our lives? Haven't we shut our mouths and not talked about our boyfriends and our girlfriends and our wives and our partners? Haven't we shut up and not made you feel uncomfortable when we've talked about how we identify gender-wise? Haven't we shut up when you've made your jokes about bisexuality? Oh, you want the best of both worlds because you don't understand? Haven't we done our part to make you feel more comfortable out there in the world? To people, that's what I say to people that question Pride, right? Like, we have for so long worked very, very hard at making the rest of the world feel comfortable. Maybe we could have a couple weeks where we feel safe and comfortable. I don't think it's a lot to ask. So yes, I think that the stuff that they have at Target is incredibly tacky, and no, I would never want to wear, I mean, somebody posted on Twitter the other day, they said, I feel like I'm offended by, and it was like a joke, but at the same time, it was like so catty. It was just, somebody posted on Twitter and like reshared it. I didn't know the person that had posted it, that somebody else just reshared it and said like, I'm offended by the pride section at Target. It's homophobic. Because it's so gay or something like that. Because they have top hats or something that are like rainbow colored, and then they have sport coats that are rainbow colored. Hell, we're 3 years out from Target having pride stuff in their store. We should feel so lucky. We should feel so blessed, shouldn't we? I'm okay with that. You know, I saw this whole discussion the other day about, you know, like, oh, now companies want to use gay people and they're just monopolizing off of pride, and every makeup company is doing a pride palette, and all of these companies are doing, let them use us. Let them bring more attention to our lives and what our lives are about. I'm totally fine with that. I am totally fine with these companies wanting to bring more exposure to Pride Month, you know? Hell, I was talking to somebody the other day, I can't even remember who it was somebody close to me in my life, and I said something about, who was I talking to? And I said something about Pride Month, and they said, oh yeah, when is that? It's June, you know? And it's like, I think everybody should have to watch like the documentaries like about the Stonewall riots. I think everybody should have to watch the documentary that is on Amazon Prime, and I can't remember what it's called, but it's about the riots that took place in California, in San Francisco, that were actually like a year or two before the Stonewall riots at that diner. And then I think everybody should have to watch the documentaries about Marsha P. Johnson on Netflix. That documentary is fantastic. And about her and her friend Sylvia. And they were two of the original people that were at the Stonewall riots, and their fight, okay, as trans women fighting for the entire LGBT community. I just don't understand why we can't live in a world where we can all get along a little bit better, you know? I still, every once in a while, it's weird, like, I'll be somewhere, and, like, you know, I talked about the gas station thing. Like, that's happened to me a couple of times where I'll be somewhere, right? Like, this happened when I was picking up those pies at the Jim Dandy. There was this guy that was standing near me, and he was probably about, I don't know, like 25, 26 maybe. He was, like, with his girlfriend. And I started talking, and I was like, oh my God, these pies look so good. I said, my mom would have loved these pies. And I said, now my husband told me that, and they were really nice to women that were working there and stuff, but like I kind of looked over when, like they were boxing up the pies, and I looked over at the guy, and he and his girlfriend were just kind of standing there, and I like, kind of like, I was like, smiled at him, and the guy just like looked at me and like turned and looked the other way. And I thought, dude, you know what? I got 20 years on you. That is so disrespectful. I don't care what you think, okay? That is so disrespectful. And if you really disagree because of you're the world's biggest Christian in the world and come from some evangelical church, which, okay, that's fine, and you think I'm a sinner, then pray for my sins and smile at me. Then be a Christian and smile at me, okay? Instead of turning the other way and acting like I don't exist when I'm standing there. I was like, that is so rude. That happens to me. It doesn't happen to me all the time. It happens to me. I don't notice it as much as I used to notice it. I used to notice a lot, like, well, I mean, when I was a lot thinner and dressed a lot different, I think, you know, it was one thing. But, like, now that I have a beard and I wear a trucker hat and just, like, shorts and a shirt, like, until I start talking, I don't think the stereotype of, oh, he's gay comes out, you know what I mean? And then I start talking and people are like, oh. Like, I can't remember where I was, and this girl was, like, talking to me, and she was like, well, I don't mean to be presumptuous, but you're just like my brother. And I go, what do you mean? And she's like, well, my brothers, and she went like this too. She goes, my brothers and I thought, sweetie, you are literally 20 if you're a day, okay? You need to back up with that. Like, that's so disrespectful. And so she went on and she goes, I hope I'm not being, and then she said, like, I hope I'm not coming across as, she's like, oh, I love gay guys. She's like, I hope I'm not coming across as rude. And I said, no. I said, you're not coming across. Where was I when this happened? God, this was not too long ago either. I said, no, you're not coming across as rude. I said, but I just don't, I think because I know that you mean it from a good place. I said, but I do want you to realize that the way that you're speaking to me is offensive. And because you're doing this and stereotyping and whatever. And she just looked at me and got up and walked away. Where was I when that happened? Was that at the car dealership? It was somewhere where I was waiting. Now I can't remember where that was. Where was it? Anyway. It's important for all of us to be validated and to know that each of every one of you out there is important. We're all important. Each of your lives are important, you know? And you know what? And this is where, like, when we talk about the It Gets Better project, and I did not love the It Gets Better project just because we told kids it would get better, but we didn't tell them how it would get better. But I'm telling you, for me, it did get better, you know? That those moments of being in the locker went from that to having, you know, a teacher that didn't make me dress out for gym. Okay, that was great, but if that had been the different case and I did have to dress out for gym, I graduated from high school. I didn't have to dress out for gym class for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? I eventually got my own apartment. I eventually had people that were like-minded around me. I still do to this day, you know? And that was from putting one foot in front of the other and realizing I will persevere. I am stronger than these people know. They are not gonna keep me down. They are not gonna beat me. I can do this. And I did it silently, and I did it respectfully. I didn't scream. I didn't shout. I didn't fight back. I didn't whine. I didn't go to the, you know, all these places when they told me, like, oh, man up. I didn't, you know, say a bunch of crap to them and whatever in retaliation, you know? And that was hard. That was hard. But through the years, what that did was, it taught me I'm a hell of a lot stronger than I ever thought I was. And it taught me that I can handle a lot more than I think I can too. And I think it really, to be honest with you, built me into the adult that I am today, into allowing me to be, this is where, like, that emotional Peter that cries on camera that you guys see, that's not who I was back then. You would not break me. I wasn't showing you a tear. Never, right? And although that got me through high school, because I do think had I started crying on the spot when kids were screaming and yelling at me, I think that would have been the end. Like, I really do. Like, I think something would have snapped in me, or I think that, and this, I'm just sharing what I believe about my experience. I think something would have snapped in me, or I think that it would have made things 100 times worse. So I'm thankful that I wasn't back then. And I am a believer in sharing your emotions, but I think it would have screwed me at the time. But it allowed me to be the adult that I am today, to realize it's okay today, in a safe place in my life, to share emotionally what's going on with me, happy, sad, in between. It's okay for me to share that. It's okay for me to be honest about that and cry and get tearful and get emotional. Like, that's all okay today, right? Because I'm in a safe place in my life. Put one foot in front of the other. Tell yourself, and this is not just about LGBT people. This is about any of you out there right now that are going through something and you think it's not going to ever get better. I'm not going to ever be okay again. I can't believe that this breakup is like, how do I live without him? How do I live without her? I cannot move on, you know? I got fired from my job, or I quit my job, or I didn't get into the college that I wanted to, or, you know, I'm fighting with my best friend, or whatever. This too shall pass. This too shall pass. You're stronger than what is happening to you. You are not defined by what is going on with you in your life right now. I am not defined by some a-hole standing behind me when I was 5'4", and he towered over me at 5'11" in ninth grade, saying to me, stop looking at me, stop looking at me, stop looking at me. I am not that. He is that. I am not that. You are not the definition of what happened to you in your life, okay? And you're going to be okay. You're going to be just fine. Put one foot in front of the other. Continue to tell yourself, I'm stronger than I thought I'm stronger than I know that I am. I'm stronger than I know that I am. I'm going to persevere, and life is going to get better. And you know what? One day, too, you will walk down into some situation like Alex and I did, into the city county building, and sign your name on a piece of paper and feel validated in that moment that, you know what? I am somebody. And trust me, it is a moment, and I haven't had tons of moments of those like that in my life. I really haven't, where I have really in the moment felt validated. Like everything I went to got me to this moment, you know? But there have been moments like that where I have really felt like that, you know, like I matter. And I know that this sounds cheesy, like the guy on Mad TV or something, the Saturday Night Live or whatever that, you know, used to say this, but it's the truth. To get to a point where I realize I matter, I'm important, my life matters, the things I think about matter, the things I do and say matter, my friends matter, my family matters. I'm just as important as anybody I see on social media. I'm just as important as any celebrity, movie star, politician, writer, author, anybody out there. My life matters just as much, no matter how small, no matter how little, no matter how big it is. My life matters just as much. And you know what? I am somebody. I'm somebody today, you know? I wasn't. And the reason that I wasn't was because I had been beat down so hard that I didn't believe in myself. And I have to tell you, this is why, as parents, what you do is so important. Because even though I came from an active alcoholic mother, and parents that were divorced, I had two parents that loved me unconditionally, allowed me to be whoever I wanted to be. If I got the idea of be too much from anybody, I got that from my mother and my father, 50-50. Both of my parents are be too much all the way. You live your truth. That's who they are. And that's who they were. Or that's who my mom was. You know? My dad was so encouraging of a young age. You do you. You be who you want to be. You know? And with the unconditional love and support that I had from my parents, who didn't even know anything that was going on with me because I never told them, you know? Somehow I made it. And I always knew that they loved me. I always knew that my aunts and uncles loved me. I always knew that my parents' friends loved me. I always felt loved, and I always felt safe. And that's one of the reasons why I tell the stories of, like, my Aunt Susie coming to visit with her daughters, or summers on the street in the cul-de-sac and playing games. Like, that's why I get so emotional, because those moments, going to the boat in Saugatuck, Michigan, you know, times with my mom doing this or doing that, those were safe moments for me. When I look at my life, those were moments where I was able to be who I wanted to be. Those were safe moments for me, you know? Be that parent for your kid. Please, please be that parent for your kid. Be that aunt or uncle for your nephews or nieces or your grandkids, you know? Be the safe place for them. Be the person that loves them unconditionally no matter what, because you're making a huge difference. And not every single one of them is going to turn out part of the LGBT community or have huge issues, you know? You might just be loving somebody into being the next astronaut that goes out into outer space and discovers another world. You might just be loving somebody into being, you know, a powerful attorney or the next president or the writer of the best cozy mystery series. You don't know. You might be taking away that fear, you know? We have the ability to be that for people in this world. It's so powerful. When I look at the people that stood there, like this French teacher that I had in high school, I loved her. She was such a fantastic teacher, and I knew she cared about me because we would talk about books and stuff. But whenever kids would pick on me, she just looked like she didn't know what to do, and probably because she had been bullied growing up. You know, people probably made fun of her, and it probably brought it back, and so she didn't know what to do in that moment. And I don't blame her for that today, you know? But it was frustrating. It was like, I don't even have my teacher in the class where I should feel safe in my class, you know? I didn't have that. But I have teachers like that, and then I have like the football the coach, okay? The football coach, Jim Belden at Carmel High School. Probably the most masculine guy at Carmel High School when I was there, okay? In those athletic director shorts and a polo shirt, and led the Carmel Greyhounds to something like 10 state championships, okay? This guy with swooped over hair that had probably never thought about LGBT this, gay that, whatever, saw something in me and knew that he could make a difference. And just by making me his assistant, I don't even know if a year later he would have even remembered my name, in all honesty, you know? But just making me his assistant, it wasn't like we were close, we didn't talk about stuff, you're my assistant. But I knew that was what it was about, you know? He made a difference. And I had a few people like that growing up, and I'm so thankful for that. Because if I didn't have any of them, I don't know if I'd be here today. I really don't, you know? I think that would have been the main point of drinking me or drugging me into the ground. And I had enough people that were hoping and loving on me. It's powerful to love on somebody. We can talk about prayer all day long. I believe in prayer. I do, okay? I'm a big believer in prayer. I don't think it necessarily works the way that we think it does, but I believe in prayer. I don't think it always works the way that we think it does, but I believe in prayer. But I believe that loving on somebody can fundamentally change them, you know? Loving them and trying to understand that where they're coming from is okay. I have some people in my life that are evangelical Christians. And it's interesting in talking about them because there's always these discussions about, well, they think that being gay is a sin and blah, 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 whatever. And, you know, my response to that is always like, I understand that. Like, that they really do believe that from their point of view. Like, that's what they were taught to believe, and that's safe. And I understand that, you know, and I respect that and whatever. They're not hateful to me. They always are respectful to me. They always are very nice to me, you know. We don't really ever go there and have that discussion, you know. The relationships aren't that deep anyway, but I always try to walk like Atticus Finch around on somebody else's front porch and see where they're coming from and love on them a little bit, you know? I don't have to agree with somebody to give them love. I don't have to agree with somebody and their point of view to love them as a human being. I don't even have to like them to love them, you know? But I have learned in sobriety that it makes things a hell of a lot easier to love on somebody and to want for them what I want for myself, because it humanizes things. I just looked at that and I thought it said 30 minutes and I was like, oh my God, what did I touch that? Now I can go past 30 minutes on my camera. But you know, it's like, it humanizes them for me. It makes me see them. I actually can't believe this battery has gone this long. In a completely different way. It makes me realize that we all have our assorted stuff that we need validated for. Now, I don't co-sign and validate people's stuff that's painful or hurtful to other people. I don't do that. But you know, I think about that. I think about sometimes the fact that I grew up with these two parents that didn't like each other. And they were intellectual people, you know, my dad still is. They didn't know anything about raising a kid. And they did the best they could. And then, you know, my mom used to say to me, I made a lot of mistakes. And if there was a book that said read page 1 through 100 and your kid will turn out perfect, she's like, every parent would read that. You know, I've met a lot of parents in my life that I don't think would read that book. I honestly don't. But my mom would have read that book. She would have at least tried to do the best that she could. She did try to do the best that she could, you know? And my dad did a fantastic job, and, oh, the battery is dying. And, you know, I think the fact that they always just loved me unconditionally and tried to do the best they could loving me. It's got 15 seconds left on the video, and the battery is dying. But anyway, the fact that they tried to do the best loving me, and, like, okay, it stopped. But I think loving me was enough. It really was, you know? Like, it really made me feel like I mattered. That was that validation that I needed as a kid growing up. But I do think to some degree we all need that. So anyway, it seems like I've only been vlogging for like 10 or 15 minutes. It's crazy. Oh my God. It's almost 5:30. So I'm going to get off here now. And happy summer! It's June 1st! Oh God, I'm so excited. So it's supposed to be by Friday, it's supposed to be like 82. And then Saturday and Sunday are supposed to be like 85 and 87. I'm going to be at the pool. Don't even think I'm not. And, but I'm going to have to get rid of my pizza. We had pizza tonight. It was so good. Did I already say that? Anyway, nobody else has told you this today. I love you. Always lead with love, like it says in the 4 agreements. Put out some kindness, love, compassion, understanding, tolerance, hope, faith, and courage. Just be a magically amazing human being and love one another. That's all we got to do, you know? Love one another a little bit better. And for anybody else that needs to hear this out there, whatever you're going through right now, whatever hardship you're going through, you are going to be okay. Trust me. You're going to be okay. And I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Love ya!